the referral piece is a piece of the puzzle that every business owner will do what you're doing, shake their head yes, right? Like it makes a ton of sense. And from an ROI standpoint, it's the strongest. And from a retention standpoint, it's the best. And people who are referred to you typically refer others, but they don't know how. And a lot of people dabble, right? And they'll go, oh, yeah, well, I tried that. And it's like, well, you tried it how and for how long, you know? And so really I wanted to put the full system in there. And this is not a lead magnet. This is the first book that's a traditional publishing company. Well, it's a hardcover. It'll be available in all major retailers.
It's a beautifully done book, by the way. It is. You're listening to the Uptown Girls podcast. I'm your host, Martina Barley. Let's talk. Oh, it's been a while since I've heard that intro. Welcome back, everyone, to the Uptown Girls podcast. We're just making a summer appearance today, and we're going to see what happens. It's been a little bit since we've been here, and I had an opportunity to get a really great guest in, so I'm like, let's come back.
Don't compliment me till the end.
Okay, all right. I'll wait till the end to compliment you, but I feel a little pressure because you have your own podcast too, and it's always like, why don't you just host this one today?
I love when the host is more nervous than the guest.
Yeah. I don't know why. I really just feel rusty, but... once you are on here and talk, you're just talking.
You sounded really good in the intro.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow, that was done, a year ago at this point? But I have Scott Grates here today, insurance agent. Where's your office exactly?
So exactly, two offices, Utica, New York, and then Ilion, New York. So about 2 hours east of here. So we're in Rochester right now.
Yes, which is great because you're only the second agent I've had in the studio, which I just think, makes way better experience.
Who beat me?
Yeah.
Who
Dane Spielman.
Oh, really?
He came
up from Maryland?
Yeah. Yes,
I just saw him.
He did. He came to Uptown for a couple of days. We did dinner. So it was fun. He was awesome. Really wanting to do a podcast. And I was like, please, I would love that.
Yeah. We did our ambassador club trip to Huntington Beach. And I saw Dane down there.
He's the best. He's so fun.
He is a monster agent.
Yeah.
So he deserves to go in front of me.
Yeah. Sure. Well, second is not too bad either. And who knows when the next one will be. I want Chris Yelverton to come here next because he's very close.
Yeah.
He's a close client. But for now, you're number 2.
I'll take it.
I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I love that you and your wife are going to just make this a fun trip.
Yeah, we don't do anything easy.
Yeah.
So Martina's like, come out to Rochester. I'm like, all right, let's figure out a whole 2-3 day.
Yeah.
But we went to St. John Fisher and I spent 6 years here because my wife Kelly's 2 years younger. So I waited for her to graduate and some of the greatest years of our lives. People talk about high school, wanting to go back to high school.
Yeah.
Not that I hated high school. I didn't love high school, but college, give me those 4 years back in a heartbeat.
College was the best. I thought you were going to say it took you 6 years to graduate.
I always have to explain the 6 year part, right? Because I'm not a doctor.
Right, exactly. So I want to talk about how you got into insurance.
Yeah.
Just give me the whole story from the beginning.
Yeah, it was out of necessity, actually, because everything else in my world had fallen apart. I was a victim of the 2008 financial meltdown. So my wife and I, actually, when we left Rochester, we went to Northern Virginia, and I got into real estate. So I was doing new home construction and really did very well in sales down there. And then the real estate bubble was forming and then kind of exploded in 05, 06. And that's when we had our first son. And we're like, hey, let's move back home. So we did. And I got into mortgages and I picked up with HSBC. And I became one of their top 100 mortgage producers nationally and worked my butt off for 3 years with them. And then in 2009, when the whole financial meltdown occurred, they got rid of 6,500 jobs on a Monday. I was one of them. They pulled out of North America. So HSBC said no more. And, frankly, I was just sick of being a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Just external market shifts occurred that I couldn't do anything about. And I was out of a job. And it was so funny. My wife and I were with friends of ours at dinner. She was a team member for a nationwide agent. And over a couple of drinks, she's like, we should start our own insurance agency. And I'm like, that sounds great. Hee hee ha ha. And then the next day I'm like, that actually does sound pretty
Yeah,
good.
you're like, should we?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. And so, just everything I had done to that point in my life was month-to-month sales.
Yeah.
And it's such a grind because on July 31st, you're the best ever, ring the bell, get the award, get the plaque, and on August 1st, you're a piece of crap. I don't know if you can swear on this podcast. You're a piece of crap.
You totally can, yeah.
So it's the residual piece was so intriguing to me. I said, if I can write a policy today and cultivate that relationship and keep that family happy for 30 years, I can get paid 90 times, on one household.
Yeah.
So that was really intriguing. So I actually started recruiting insurance companies. I called Allstate, I called State Farm, I called Nationwide just to pitch me, like what do you have, and I ended up with State Farm, and there was no opportunity. So the recruiter was like, well, where do you want to be? I said, I want to be in my own town. They're like, well, we have an agent there, and I was like, yeah, he's really not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so they're like, write the business plan. So I literally wrote a business plan for a new market opportunity in my town for a company I pitched, and then I was like, oh shit, what if they don't give it to me? Like I had to interview for a position that I created. Where no one else interviewed. No one else wanted it.
That's amazing. You told them. First of all, you were like, you pitched me on why I should be a State Farm agent. Yeah. Then you were like, you need an agent here, and then you had to interview for it.
Then I had to interview for it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, obviously they liked you. Obviously it went good.
So that was in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been 15 years now. It's been awesome. But I had no insurance experience.
Right.
I had no entrepreneurial experience, and so you talk about just shooting from the hip, ready, fire, aim, just jump, figure it out on the way down. That was me.
The biggest struggle of my life has been from going from being a top salesperson at a company to now I own this business and I'm just like in a dark room by myself trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, talk about like the highs of like, you're the top of the leaderboard, the company, all this stuff. And now you're just got to figure this out.
I talk about it all the time with people who are trying to get into starting their own business. I said there's a huge psychological shift when you stop signing the back of a paycheck and you start signing the front. And there's a lot of pressure there. I don't know if did you start with employees or were you on your own at
I
first?
had two in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
So scary stuff. So you
Very
probably
scary.
were more concerned about their livelihood than your own, and just a lot of pressure, and you put others ahead of self, and stress and sleepless nights and wondering
100%.
Lines of credit. But so when we hear things today, because you're crushing it, when people say it must be nice, right? It makes you cringe.
I'm like,
because it's like, if you could come back to the 3-4 years where I didn't know where my next meal was coming from, that was really nice.
Exactly. Or the nights I don't sleep until 3 a.m. because you just can't turn your brain off. You're worried about your employees. You're worried about just everything, So. But it's I think really underestimated part of being a business owner. People are like, oh yeah, like you said, must be nice, must be so great, but there's so much psychological, especially if you're coming from sales.
Right.
Usually if you're good at sales, you have an ego, you like the praise, you like, the competition, and then it's just you're on your own.
The other thing is you get frustrated because you're like, well, why can't they just do it this way?
Do it the way I would do it.
Yeah. It's not that hard, right? And we have to stop ourselves because it's not that hard for Martina, right? Because you've honed in on that craft and you became excellent at it. But these people are at a different stage, different season. It's totally
different. I always say it's like, could you imagine if they pulled Michael Jordan off the court and they made him coach the team?
Right.
He'd be like, what?
Great point, right? Not all great players. Most great players are not great coaches. So it's a huge fundamental shift that a lot of salespeople specifically aren't ready for when they start on their own, because especially in insurance, it's a high volume business. Yeah. Right. I mean, to get this thing cooking to the level of like the Danes of the world, you've got to have 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 policies in force, and you can't write all those. You can't service those on your own. So in order to do it, you have to have a strong team. Right. So now it goes from all about Dane producing to all about how well can Dane consistently recruit, hire, onboard, train, motivate his team to be the best version of themselves so that they can do, it's leverage. It's crazy. Okay, so let's go back to your new market. How did you do that? How did you go from your own position you created in this market you created? You started with 0 policies. Yeah. What'd you do? How'd you do it? So I didn't realize it at the time, but the thing that I did, which it still serves me to this day, is I created this win the day mentality. I never got too far out ahead of myself. So I opened on December 1st, and on the way in that morning, and I'm about a mile from my office, so it's a pretty quick trip. On the way in, I said, hey, what's just one thing? What's one thing that if I accomplish this today by 5, 6 o'clock, whenever I was going to leave, I'll feel like I've won today and I've earned the right to come back on December 2nd and try again. And I just had a laser like focus on one goal for the day. And then the next day I would set a new goal, and that was it. Right. And I just rinsed and repeated, and then days became weeks and weeks became months. And suddenly it was like, this thing's cooking, and people are like, well, that question, how'd you do it? Where'd you start? And it's so corny and cliche, but it really is one day at a time. And I think we all tend to get too far ahead of ourselves, and you can get overwhelmed, and big goals can suffocate you if you allow them to. So what do? We just break it down into what is that one thing? And I cap it at 3. So I say that if you have more than 3 goals for a day, that's a to-do list. 1, 2, or 3 goals, that's your essential list. So what are those priorities? And then put them in order, 1, 2, and 3, and just go down the list. So really it's one day at a time. I approach every year like it's my first year all over again. It's a clean slate. So this is my 15th first year in business. And I would argue that this is probably the most challenging year that I've had.
How come? You're like, how much time do we have?
Should I lay down on the couch? You can be my shrink here. It's just external circumstances change. So we're very heavily regulated. We're in an industry, and with a company, we're captive. So we have to offer the products and services that the company offers. They make the rules. They set the pricing. The state controls, a lot of things we can and can't do. So things are always changing outside of our control. Post-COVID, employees have changed. Being able to find them, and then their expectations. And I'm not labeling my employees this way. So if you're listening, this is not for you, but there's a lot of entitlement, out there. And a lot of people think they're owed things. Customers have changed, right? They're very demanding, and listen, it is all about the customer, and they should be demanding within reason. But there used to be like, hey, after 5, I'm not going to bother you. But just somehow in this COVID world, everything just became 24/7. Like it's just okay to reach out to you at 9 o'clock at night or on a Saturday morning.
And expect an answer.
And so, the team's bigger, the customer base is bigger, expenses are higher just because the cost of everything is up. So it's been challenging, to say the least.
So, you have a second office. When did you open the second office?
So July 1st, we just hit 1 year in the second agency. Yeah.
Congrats. How was the first year there?
Challenging.
Lay back down on the couch.
Thank you. I swore I would never do a second office. And I fought it for years. And then this opportunity came up, and it was in the city of Utica. And so my first agency is very rural. We've got 3 stoplights in the town of Ilion. It's in a small county called Herkimer County. And so Utica offered a more diverse culture, a bigger customer base. Just the geography made sense. There was a real estate play with it. I had the opportunity to buy the building, and and I have really strong leadership, and so it was an opportunity for me to take 2 of my strong leaders and assign them each an agency, which they deserved. And so it long term, it'll make a lot of sense. I say all the time, everything I do will make a ton of sense for my kids. When I'm dead and gone. But no, it's look, we're cut from the same cloth, right? Type A's, we're never satisfied. We never want to be complacent. And it was a challenge. And I was ready for a challenge. So.
Well, you mentioned you have 2 strong leaders, and I know that a lot of insurance agents struggle. How do you get those strong leaders? So what would you say? I mean, I'm sure it's a whole big, long story, but if you had to say, like, these are some of the major things I did to get these 2 in a really strong position where I can say, you're in one office, you're in another, now go.
Empowering them, right? And so, you think of a micromanager and then go complete 180, and that's me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm as hands off as you get.
Yeah.
So trust, empowerment, treating them like true CEOs, and showing them the vision, giving them the path, and letting them spread their wings and lead the team, allowing them to make mistakes, giving them permission to make mistakes, not get in their way. And, but then also being present and available for them and consistent conversations and check-ins and metrics. And, but even before that, Martina, it just, you've got to hire the right, this, we did a whole show on hiring together. And, so, you just have to find people who want to win in their DNA. Like they're competitive. If you can find people with that chip on their shoulder, that underdog spirit, that just fire in their belly, right? You can't train that. The training stuff is easy if you have the right person.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson didn't have to coach Michael Jordan, to stick with the analogy on wanting to win. MJ wanted to win. So it's true. So then it just becomes the X's and O's and ultimately get out of his way and give him the ball when it matters. And that's how I treat my leaders. Yeah,
that's awesome. So of those two, are either of them going to become agents themselves, or are they running the show?
Yeah, so they 100% could, and I would support and obviously give them whatever they needed to make that happen. But they're both at a point in life where, one has young twin girls and the other one's, a little on the other side of it where, she's probably 10, 12 years to retirement. And so they're both 100% capable. They would be two of the greatest agents in our market. They prove it every day with what they do at my agency. But they both also understand what we talked about earlier, the debt and the stress and the sleepless nights. And, they're both 40, 45-hour work weeks and they've got a lot of flexibility, and they're still signing the backs of the check instead of the front, and they're comfortable with that.
Yeah. So. I read something online the other day. It was like, what's such a big misconception? It was talking about how everybody, there's this culture now that everybody needs to be an entrepreneur and make these huge, big moves. And you don't. You need people that are going to come in and work their ass off in the 40, 45 hour a week. And then they get to go home and they don't have to deal with that. And it's just simply not for everybody.
100%, and I would say it's not for most people, and what you're kind of referring to there is this idea of intentionally small, even for business owners. How big do you want to get? Because, I'm sure this is something that you think about when you're scaling, how big is Uptown Marketing going to get? What's the end goal? And sometimes it's almost like, Biggie here, more money, more problems, right? But the bigger you get, the tougher it gets. And for what reason? And everyone has their different reasons. So some people like to stay intentionally small.
Yeah.
One thing that blew me away is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits.
Yep.
He's obviously a huge keynote speaker. Atomic Habits is one of the best-selling books in the history of books. And he's a thought leader. And, everyone knows James Clear in our space. He has one employee. That's
wow.
it. And so he talks about that, where he's intentionally small and he's focused on doing, a handful of things each month, and he has one person that helps him with that, and he doesn't want to get bigger.
Yeah. Well, it's quality over quantity, right? I mean, we have at Uptown, the exclusivity where we only work with one agent per market, and people are always saying, but you're so limited. You can't work with every single agent. And I'm like, exactly. That's the point. We can do much higher quality with a smaller amount of clients. The team's happier. They're not burnt out. So there's definitely a lot to be said about it.
I love that model. Yeah. And I love it because it creates loyalty, right? There's scarcity there, right? If I'm that one agent in that market, I don't want to give that
up. Exactly.
And so for you don't have to constantly wonder, where's my next customer coming from, my next client coming from, because the ones you have, you keep happy and you do a great job, and then they don't want to leave because there's scarcity. The next person, FOMO.
Exactly. FOMO. Yep. So let's shift gears a little bit. Okay. So you also have insurance agency optimization. when did that start? How did that start? And kind of tell us a little bit about it.
So it's kind of funny that, so we're having this conversation live a day before my 47th birthday. And I bring that up because that shift happened right before my 40th birthday. And age never really bothered me, but maybe it's because I sell life insurance that when I hit 40, I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm kind of on the back nine now, right? Statistically speaking, I'm going the other way now. And I started looking around at the time, one agency that was doing very well, great team in place, family was good. And, frankly, I was like, I'm bored. How big, here we go again. Like, how big can I get? Captive agent, small market, 20-something% market share already. I'm like, is this it? And I really challenged myself to reflect and ask myself, what's the legacy piece here? Like, what do you want to be known for? What do you love? What's your passion? And it really came back to teaching. My wife's a school teacher. I wanted to teach when I left school. I couldn't deal with the pay. Yeah. Right. Or just this step scale, knowing that whoever started before me, I could never catch them, even if they sucked as a teacher. And so we had great systems and processes, and we had great training internally. And I said, hey, there's a lot of different agents out there who could use this. And so I started training and coaching and going all over the country and doing workshops and seminars completely free, because I'm like, I'm not going to be the agent who takes money from other agents. Yeah. Like, I just want to help. I want to pay it forward. So many helped me. And then the power of social media. I'm working with all these agents and totally free. It's not free. I'm losing money, right? My time and then travel expense and whatnot. And then I see them online, and they're at these workshops and seminars for $1,500 or $2,000, and they're like, oh, spending 2 days in Baltimore learning from whatever. And I'm like, dude, like, that's all the same shit I was giving you for free. Like, what are you doing? And so one of my mentor agents, he's like, listen, Scott, if it's free, it has no value. Like, you have to charge. People don't pour into something unless they have some skin in the game. And so that's when we started charging, for different trainings and workshops. And ironically, that's when it exploded. It was so crazy. Like, when I was doing it for free, it was all right. But then once we turned it into an actual legit business with monthly memberships and different workshops and coaching and one-on-one stuff, people were signing up like crazy. So it was a wild shift. But yeah, the answer to that question is, I turned 40 and
instead
realized,
of like buying a convertible, you started another business.
I'm not, no, you would look good in a convertible.
Thank you.
I would not. Yeah. No, people are like, put the top up, dude. We don't want to look at you.
Awesome. So how many employees do you have? Like, what's the structure of that business compared to your agencies?
Yeah, so they're very similar. The consulting business has 11. There's 11 of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then the agencies, there's 12 total. Now, that's a little deceiving because a lot of that's part-time. Right. So there's 5 other agency owners who help me with the coaching and training. We deliver new content every single day through a morning huddle series. So we do recorded content, 5 to 10 minute videos, because it's hard to plan a team meeting every single day. So we're like, we'll do the content for you. So you can have your team watch it individually. You guys can watch it together and discuss. So it's just a thought of a day. And then every Tuesday, we do a Teach It Tuesday where we go on Zoom and we've got a half-hour teaching session. And then on Thursday, we do live practice sessions. So what we learned on Tuesday, now we get the team members to participate and practice role play. So we can kind of cheat off each other's paper, right? Peer-to-peer learning. And then in between, we've got a bunch of different product-specific boot camps and workshops and things that we do. So yeah, and then internally, we've got accountability partners and industry coaches. And then, of course, there's the sales and marketing and all the other stuff that goes with it. So
wow.
It's become a whole thing.
Deliver that much content. I was just saying, to this podcast alone, to keep coming up with consistent content is the hardest thing ever.
So I don't know if this will make you feel better or worse, but since 2017, when this started, we've delivered new content every weekday for 7 straight years.
That makes my head explode. I can't even fathom.
Yeah, and it's also why I had to bring in other people.
Yeah,
because it was just me for the first few years, and I got to a point where I'm like, in our industry, I say all the time, we tend to make a pretty easy conversation difficult. There's only like 4 or 5 main components of insurance and what we talk about. So now it becomes, how can I make this intriguing, interesting, put a different spin on it, 100 different times, for the same 4 or 5 concepts.
Yeah.
But, and what's cool too is with our model, we''ve got a newer agent, we've got an MDRT, 2 MDRT agents, we've got MOA agents, we've got, we got people in the South, we got people in the West, we've got people in the North. So there's, every member will kind of gravitate towards and resonate with a different coach. It's a different voice. So it's not just me, because frankly, a lot of people may not like me or agree with me or and I'm okay with that. And I get it. So it's cool that we're able to diversify.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Team.
And I mean, to speak to all those struggles that you guys are having as a company, there's struggles that I want to ask you about this, because I haven't gotten to talk about this on the podcast really, and this ties in marketing, of course, but in New York State right now, your company, you cannot get a .com lead, meaning if I'm looking for car insurance, I cannot anymore go to your website, put in all my information, and that's responsible in other states for, tons of new business coming in. Yeah. How was that shift? Were you mad about that? What have you done to kind of compensate for it?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to the second part.
Yeah.
But mad. Yeah. It frustrated. A big part of the new book, it's all about relationship marketing.
Right.
And so we go out and we generate relationships with people in parallel markets, parallel industries that are already doing business with our potential customers.
Yep.
So as an insurance agent who's doing business with my potential customers, it's car dealers, it's real estate agents, mortgage brokers, attorneys, right? So we're out there cultivating these relationships so that when they're talking to their customers, when insurance comes up, they're like, oh yeah, you got to go see Scott or Scott's team. And so we did a couple things. We put a 3-day hold on new business. So if you're at a car dealership today and you need insurance, I can't do it. Right. And so what happened was all of our car dealers said, well, it's not you. It's just that you can't do what we need. Yeah. And so a lot of those relationships have not, the relationship's fine. We're still staying in front of them, but we're just not getting the referrals from them.
You can't give them what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, and everything's seasonal. But the internet thing is challenging. People still can go online and put their information in. We can call them. There's different products that we can offer, but they can't bind, right? Yeah. So we can still have the conversation, but we can't. They can't bind their own business online right now. And, it's not exclusive to my company. Every company is going through this. So that's what makes this season a little bit different is sometimes a company goes through some stuff. This is an industry going through some stuff. And, the bottom line, simply put, and no one wants to hear it, but it's the truth, is that we printed like $6 trillion in the last 4 years, and it made everyone's dollar worth 50 cents.
Right.
And so when COVID hit, all these insurance companies were dropping rates and giving money back because no one was driving and there was no claims. And then all of a sudden everything opened up and it went back to claims, at the volume that we're used to, even higher. But the big caveat is now a $2,000 claim is a $4,000 claim because the cost of labor rates and materials have doubled, but the premiums collected have not. Right. And again, no one believes it, but every insurance company in the property and casualty space in America has been hemorrhaging money. They've been paying out way more in claims than they've collected in premiums, and it's a slippery slope where the whole industry has got to make a massive correction, which is what we're doing now, which comes with a lot of pain. so I feel bad for the newer agents, right? The younger agents are the ones that are feeling it, so we're able to kind of hunker down and fight through this season, knowing that better times are coming. But I also have a little bit more money to do that now, where a newer agent who has to write business, it's tough. Yeah. Really tough.
Yeah. It's good to hear, because we have these conversations every day with people in different states, and there's different restrictions and struggles for everybody, but it's nice to hear it explained in that way, because that is the fact of it. It's all of these factors leading up to this, and this is why, so we have to deal with it, versus a lot of times you get, just it's so unfair. How am I supposed to do this? Yeah. I can't write business because X, Y, Z. But if you break it down like you just did, it's like this is what it is.
I tell my customers all the time, I'm not always going to have the answer you want to hear, but I'm going to give you the truth.
Yeah.
and that's just what this is. Yes, this is nobody likes this, self included, but here we are.
Yeah.
And I can't change it, but here's how we're going to get through it.
So I want to get to the main event, your book, but I want to get to your other 2 books that you wrote first. So tell us about the first book that you ever wrote. Why'd you decide I want to write a book?
All right. So because we're friends now, right?
Yes.
Full disclosure. Yeah. So the first book was a lead magnet. So you mentioned Chrissy Elverton. So are you familiar with Jim Rollo?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jim's an agent down in Binghamton, good friend of mine, mentor in life and in business. And he wrote a book. I'll mess it up. I think it's called The Happy Homeowner. But he wrote a book, and its sole purpose was to give it to realtors in his market, so that the realtors, when they sold a house, would give it to the new homeowner, and it would give them all these thoughts and ideas and things to know about, hey, as a new homeowner, these are all the things you should consider. And it was basically a really awesome lead magnet to bring them to him for insurance.
Cool.
Right? Yeah, so it was brilliant. And so we got talking, and he said it was with a company called 90 Minute Books. Now, I'd never thought about writing a book. I thought about it, but it wasn't, it wasn't like...
in the back of your head.
Yeah, right. It's everyone's bucket list, right? It's on there somewhere. And so he put me in touch with a publishing company, and it's literally a 2-day process to brain dump everything, kind of like we're doing now. So they would ask questions, interview. I would just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. They would take the transcript, and then they would put it into chapter form, and then they have it edited and whatever. And so the book was a lead magnet for the website, which is agencyoptimization.com, which became the coaching consulting company. I felt really guilty. I still do, actually. So this is my public apology to everyone, because the book's not that good. But people love it. It's sold like 6,000 copies at this point.
So what is that good? People love it.
But I don't know. I struggle with it, because the way you do a lead magnet book is you give enough value so it keeps people interested, and they take some golden nuggets away from it, but ultimately it leaves them wanting more.
Right.
And it drives them. You've read lead magnet books, right? Where some of them feel really salesy, and I didn't want this to feel salesy. I wanted it to feel like a very value-driven book, but ultimately there were a lot of key components of the processes that I was introducing in that book, where it's like, hey, if, on our website, or download this form, so it was driving them to the website. It worked, but I wasn't super proud of the book itself.
The book. Yeah. That wasn't I'm an author. That was, I'm good at getting leads.
But it was, I'm an author, frankly, because it's a resume builder, right? And so what does everyone, not everyone, but thought leaders and people who are trying to build their personal brand and market, right? It's author, speaker, podcast host, you got to go through the list. Yeah. And so now I was able to say, hey, I'm a published author.
Right.
And so it checked that box. But actually, driving out here today, I was thinking 2025, I'm probably going to redo that book and make it the way I want it. Yeah, because like the company's up and established now. Like it doesn't need a lead magnet.
Right.
So I want to say everything in that book that I wanted to say 7 years ago, but didn't.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, books come out with second edition all the time.
Tell me that's not the worst sales pitch you ever heard, by the way.
Wow.
Who in their right mind wants to buy that book right now?
I mean, I'm not as interested in it as I was, but I guess I'll wait for the second edition. No, it makes sense. And like you said, even just saying, all right, I wrote a book. Now you're ready for book 2. Tell us about book 2, because it's totally different.
Totally different. And this one I am super proud of. And this one was very close to my heart. It was for my oldest son. So, you know, being in business and being a life insurance salesman, I'm like, hey, you know, if something happens to me, as if, you know, as in I die, they're going to be okay financially, my family. But there's quite a bit of stuff in the old man's head that I would want my kids to know. And now I've got a 17-year-old son who's leaving high school and about to enter adulthood in the real world. And I'm like, I want to get some things on paper that, you know, for him to know. And so every morning to wake up and with my coffee, the first 30 minutes of my day, I would just start writing notes, some stories, some bullet points, some systems, processes, thoughts, mindsets. And I did this every day for months and months and months. And I didn't set out to write a book. It was just going to be like a really long love letter to him almost. You know, this is my present to you when you graduate. But I had like 300 pages worth of notes. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, I think I have a book.
Yeah.
And so I got a hold of a different publishing company this time around, and because I wanted it to be meatier. I wanted it to be there was nothing to sell at the end of this. There was nowhere to drive people. And what I realized is that it wasn't just for Tyler, my son. It was for all kids, you know, who were transitioning, whether it was into the real world or college or whatever's next. So the book is The Essential F Words for Teens. There's 9 different F words. None of them are the F word, but that was a whole other side story with Amazon, which was a struggle to get it on Amazon. But anyway, so it's the coolest part of that story is it gets published in March of 23. So my son's going to graduate in June. And I said, hey, I want to leverage my network here locally. And I have a goal to get this book in the hands of every graduating senior in my area, like the Tri-County area. And so I reached out to all my small business owner friends, and I said, hey, will you sponsor a graduating class? And then the bigger classes that had like 500-600 kids, I'd say, will you sponsor a block of 100? Buy 100 books and donate them. And within 30 days, we had sold over 5,000 books to be donated to graduating seniors last year. And
awesome.
It became unintentionally like a bestseller on Amazon. It spent 2.5 weeks as a bestseller on Amazon. And it's since, you know, gone over 10,000 copies sold. And it's just a cool legacy piece, you know, for me, for my son. And then probably the most impactful for us is we got on camera like we're doing now, and he would read a chapter, and then we'd get on camera and we would discuss it. And it just created conversation for us that we never would have had otherwise. And then we got to the last chapter and we both got a little choked up, and he's like, I'm kind of sad this is ending. I'm like, it's not ending. Like, we're just starting. That was this whole moment on camera. Yeah. So no, that book, it's too long. So here's the thing about a book. You're gonna, as soon as you put it out there, there's a million things you want to change about it, and you can't let it drive you nuts. I keep telling myself that. Yeah. But
well, how cool is that? Like you said, it's even more special to you than the first one you wrote, and it's almost reminding me. Have you ever heard of that YouTube channel where the guy like teaches kids that don't have a father, don't have a strong father figure to like tie a tie? Or like do things that a dad would teach. It's almost like that. So out of those 5,000 books you gave out, think about how many kids don't have the best dad or don't have somebody in their life giving that advice. So that is so cool. I love that.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
So the reason that I was like, okay, I really want to talk to you about this book specifically is that our business, my business specifically, is probably, I would say 95% referral driven. And that I obviously see the benefit of that. We used to say at my old company that like getting a referral, if you think about it like dating, if you're prospecting and you're cold calling, that's like a dating app. It's like, how qualified is this person for me? Whereas if your best friend says, hey, I want you to meet this person, that's somebody that's a lot more qualified. And referrals, I think for business is the same way. The retention's better. They vibe with you better, your team, all that stuff. So I guess what led you to write this book, and tell us some of the main points it hits.
Yeah, and you're spot on, right? It's all about relationship marketing, right? Which is obviously you're the marketing guru. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but this is the piece that's the most difficult for people because it isn't quick and easy.
Right.
It's not, you can't just write a check and have a relationship. You can't just do a marketing buy or ad spend. And this is the reason why people bail on it, because it takes a while, right? And so, I was having a brand crisis. Right? I was very confused as to who I was. So I was bored at 40, like we talked about earlier. And by the age of 45, 46, I'm like, all right, dude, you're doing so many different things. Like, who the hell are you? Yeah. And so I listened to Ed Milet pretty religiously, his podcast, and he had on a guest named Rory Vaden, who I'd never heard of. And after an hour, now I listen to a million podcasts and almost never do I take action. And after an hour of listening to this podcast, I'm like, I need to look this Rory Vaden dude up and connect with him. And so he owns a company called Brand Builders. And they specialize in just that, helping you hone in on your personal brand and build your personal brand. And so I signed up. It wasn't cheap, but it was the greatest thing I ever did. I got a brand specialist consultant. Ben, he probably has a real brand strategist. Yeah. All right, so I was working with Ben for about a year, and finally it was like this epiphany, this aha moment. And he's like, you're a relationship guy. He's like, everything you do with the schools, with social media, with wanting to teach, and with the coaching business and the insurance business, he goes, it's all based around relationships. And so we just started going really deep into what am I actually doing strategically, intentionally, systematically to cultivate these relationships. And, we hang our hat at the agency on, we get over 1,000 referrals every single year. We have for over 10 years now. Wow. I do SEO, I'm active on social, but I don't buy internet leads. We don't do telemarketing. I mean, we do follow-up stuff, but we don't do straight telemarketing. I don't run ads. I don't have a billboard. It's all this traditional marketing stuff. And so I said, I just, the referral piece is a piece of the puzzle that every business owner will do what you're doing, shake their head yes, right? Like, it makes a ton of sense. And from an ROI standpoint, it's the strongest. And from a retention standpoint, it's the best. And people who are referred to you typically refer others, but they don't know how. And a lot of people dabble, right? And they'll go, I tried that. And it's like, well, you tried it how and for how long, And so really I wanted to put the full system in there. And this is not a lead magnet. This is the first book that's a traditional publishing company. They've worked with like the likes of Lewis Howes and some big name people. It's a hardcover. It'll be available in all major retailers.
It's a beautifully done book, by the way. It is.
So it was a whole different experience. And I'm super excited about it because it's really the passion behind it is to help the person I once was, that young, broke, struggling business owner who didn't know how to start, where to start, didn't have the money to compete with the big players in the industry. And it gives a blueprint on how you can, the first chapter is David and Goliath. You're David, and everyone thinks that Goliath has the upper hand because he's this huge giant with all this armor and the sword or whatever. But David went in there with a gun, and Goliath had a sword, and you're going to win that fight every time. And so we have that secret advantage, which is the ability to network and build relationships in our communities that will lead to hundreds, thousands of referrals over time. But it takes a little bit of time. Yeah,
definitely. What do you think are some of the main, there's a whole book about it, but what are some of the main principles of being a referrable business?
Yeah. So I love that you say that, right? Because referrals are earned. And so many people, I use, this is probably a bad cliche, but if you go on your first date and you propose marriage before the entree comes, like, it's weird, right? Like there's a natural order to relationships. And so many business owners, especially in my industry, they'll be like, hey, we just wrote your business. Can you now give me all the names of the friends and family?
Right.
That, and it's cringy, right? It's like, I don't know. Like, let's, let me get the policy in the mail first and see how this works out. So you've got to earn that trust. And so you're right. First and foremost, and before I even get into the system in the book, I think chapter 4 or 5, we dive into, the value proposition, and we talk about, a numerator and a denominator. So the value equation is, what the customer pays as the denominator, and we can't change that, nor should we want to change it, because if we just lower your price, you're lowering your value. But the numerator is, what are they getting, right? So how much can we pack into that numerator so that the denominator becomes secondary, right? The price almost doesn't matter because I'm getting so much value. So you've got to be referral worthy first, or else none of it matters, right? And then from there, the idea is, it's the old goose and the golden egg fable, which is more important, the goose that lays the golden egg, which is, in this metaphor, the golden egg is the referral, right? Or is it the golden egg? And so most people, when it comes to advertising and marketing, they go, well, how can I get 10,000 golden eggs, right? How can I get 10,000 prospects, 10,000 opportunities? And they pay for that. And that they have to pay for that, right? And so what we do is we say, how do I get 100 geese or 200 geese, right? The people who are going to consistently send me a golden egg here and there. So instead of trying to traditionally get 10,000 new prospects, I want to build deep, rich, meaningful relationships with 200 people in parallel industries, so that when they're working with my potential customers, they're sending them to me. And if, we get 5 or 6 from each of those 200, that's how we consistently get 1,000 referrals every single year. And the beauty of it is, and this is why I call it the infinite referral advantage, is that once you get this thing cooking, you can't turn it off. Right? People want to refer to us, which is an awesome deal. So now, even if we wanted to stop it, we couldn't. The phone rings in more than it rings out. And really, the mission becomes, how do you get those 200? And that's what we teach in the book.
So do you also have, because obviously those 200 relationships are bringing a lot more. What is your system like with your team for referrals from your customers? Just a regular customer. Yeah.
So with customers, there's a couple different plays. So there's 5 components to what I teach, and it's the 5S system. So we talk about other small businesses, right? So we cultivate relationships with them. We talk about schools, and we can do a whole podcast on this. I think this is a secret weapon for a lot of people that they don't realize in their communities, because these are your future customers, your future employees. You want to get to the heart of parents, help their kids, right, in a meaningful way. So the schools, we talk about service groups. So, civic organizations, charities, like where's your passion? We talk about star customers as the 4th piece. A star customer is an extension of your sales team. Right. So is it more impactful for me to tell you why you should do business with me, or one of my customers to tell you why they love doing business with us? Right. I'm a salesperson. I own the business. They got no skin in the game. Right. So, and you trust them already. So that's the power of that. And then the social is the 5th S that brings it all together. So, you asked about the customers. So one of the plays with the customers is, when we write new business, we want to create a wow experience, right? So this is part of being referable. So we ask them to do a survey and grade us on a scale of 1 to wow. And we ask 5 or 6 questions, and they give us 1 to wow. And then we get to the last question, and it says, do you feel like we've earned the right to be introduced to one person that you know? And they say yes or no. And if they say yes, then we ask them who that person is. And we just start with 1 introduction. And so that's the new customer onboarding referral play. We do annual reviews where we're doing the survey again every year, right? And asking for that. And then we have this customer cloning process where we have an avatar, and I work with my team around, who is our perfect customer? Let's build this person on paper. And then once we know who that perfect customer is, now every day as we're going through screens, right? Because we're not talking to a lot of our customers, but we're seeing their data on screens. We go, hey, Martina is one of our avatars, right? And so now we can reach out to you in a more meaningful way. And And then, at the end of a conversation, we'll say, hey, Martina, we're trying to build this agency around great people just like you. If you'd be comfortable introducing me to one person, I'd love the opportunity to meet that person. So that's the direct customer play. But the bigger picture to everything is really about referrals without asking. So we hang our hat on not asking our centers of influence, our key relationships for a referral. We just go in there completely value driven. What do you have going on at Uptown Marketing? What are your goals? What are your struggles? What are your challenges? And what can we potentially help you with, right? How can I be an asset to your business? And then the power of it is we've got a CRM for our customers, but we have a separate CRM for our geese, if you will, going back to the goose and the golden egg metaphor. So for our key relationships. And so now I'm going to document everything that we talked about, and because I can't trust my memory. And then I'm going to go, hey, in 4 weeks, what would be a logical next step with Martina? And I set that up. So 4 weeks from now, maybe I write you a handwritten card and send it in the mail. And then 4 weeks from then, maybe I find an industry article about marketing and I take the link and I email it to you. Hey, I saw this. I thought about you guys. Maybe this will help, with your business. We connect on social, meaningful, thoughtful gifts, So there's this whole process to systematically, strategically, intentionally be in front of you, either in person or via email or on social or in the snail mail every 4 weeks, so that we just have top of mind awareness. So that now finally, maybe 6 months from now, one of your friends is talking about insurance or being frustrated or buying a house or needing, and you're like, you got to go talk to Scott, right? Yeah. Because I'm always showing up, but I'm showing up in a meaningful, value-driven way. Yep. Not asking for anything, and then suddenly you want to reciprocate and send referrals to us. Yeah, you're going above and beyond, really, especially something like insurance. There's so much that's transactional about insurance that you don't have to do all of that. So when you can take something that's as boring as insurance and make it, hey, I'm getting, my insurance agent's making me feel important. I'm seeing a lot of value that I wouldn't otherwise see in insurance. It almost becomes a no-brainer because everybody hates their insurance. So why would we not want to give a great option that's going to give us this really good experience? I want to ask you something. So tell me if you ever run into this with your team, but also I want to know, what would you say to any team that struggles with this? My team in particular, they get a lot of incoming referrals. So when those are slower and we're talking about who are your star customers that you can ask for referrals, they feel, I don't know what the right word is, they're hesitant to ask for the referrals, when in reality, those customers have given you referrals before. What would you say to somebody that's a little bit more hesitant for the direct ask? And is that something you guys ever run into with your star customers? For sure. Say? And so it's almost like dieting, right? So one of us in this room is skinny, the other one's not. So I probably shouldn't be giving dieting advice. But it's like, if you just maintain a healthy lifestyle, you don't need to diet. Right. Right. It's just who you are. And so really it's getting to a point where the referral is front and center in their heads with everything they're doing. Right. So it doesn't become this weird, cringy, I have to call and ask or try to extract something from someone because every single conversation, we're planting seeds. Hey, don't keep us a secret out there. Or, hey, if you know someone, or we're looking to refer to them, right? Who do I know in my network that might be able to help Martina? And then I can make that introduction, and then it's more natural going forward for them to introduce. So that's number one, which is very difficult. It takes time, right? To just become that, just everything we do is with a referral mindset. But to answer your question directly, I think the easier ask is a Google review. Yeah. Right. And so, maybe I go to Martina and I say, hey, we're trying to build up our social proof online, right? Our business isn't what we think it is. It's what Google says we are, right? And so if you would be so kind, and people want to help, they want to do favors. If you could do me a favor, right? If I send you a link, will you take just 30 seconds and write one nice sentence and 5 stars? It would mean the world to me and help my business. Yeah, absolutely. I would do that for you, Scott, right? And so you do that. And now when they write that review, they usually do more than one sentence, right? And they're putting it out there to the world. Now you can use that in a couple of ways, right? You can create some sort of social media like, hey, thank you so much, Martina, for this, whatever. And that gets you into their market without directly asking.
Yeah.
But then the other, it might create a bridge where now you get that review back, and now I follow up and say, Martina, thank you so much for all those kind words.
Yeah.
That means the world to me. Just so you know, I grow one great customer at a time. If you ever know anyone that you would be comfortable introducing me to, I truly appreciate that. So it's kind of like, I send it out there like, does she really think I'm great at what I do? Will she, and then when she does the 5-star review, then it's like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then the referral ask becomes a little softer.
Yeah. Have you guys ever asked people for video testimonials?
So I have not, and it's a great idea. I'm in a very regulated, compliant, heavy industry where I don't know where that lands, but in a normal business environment, I think that's fantastic. And those resonate with me when I see other companies that do it. I see it a lot with like car dealers that I'm friends with, that someone will buy a car and they'll do a quick little video as to the experience and whatever, and then they post it. And I think it's the social proof is huge.
It is.
Especially nowadays.
It is. Because I mean, you think about a referral, okay, I'm going to talk to my sister and say, you should work with Scott for your insurance. Whereas a Google review, you're telling everybody that's potentially searching for insurance in Utica, you should work with Scott for insurance. So it's huge. This is just a fun one. So I want you to think back to 2009. Maybe, it must have been 2009. You just started. Do you remember your first referral you ever got?
Ooh, that is a fun one. Okay, so the honest answer is no, I don't. But here's what I do remember is one of my best buddies from high school, and we kind of went different ways, and Kelly and I had just moved back, and I spent a couple years in the mortgage industry, and so I was just trying to get reacquainted with people from back home. We'd been gone 11 years at that point. He was in a manufacturing job, nothing to do with sales or whatever. And I put online, I said, hey, we're opening this insurance agency and we really need your help, and, asking for the referrals publicly. Right.
Yeah.
And so he called me and he said, how can I help? I want to help you. And I said, really the home run would be if you could get a couple of people to fill out their information on one of these, we call them quote sheets, just basic information we need for the quote, and give us permission to run that. Then I can call them and say, hey, you talked to Pat and he said it, I can run it. Are you cool with that? And we go through the legal piece of it, and we would run the quote. He came back 48 hours later with 34 of these quote sheets for me. And so here I am. You mentioned earlier in the interview about, no customers, starting from scratch, day one. What's that like? And within the first week, I had reacquainted with this friend who wanted to help in such a way that he spent 2 full days reaching out to everyone he knew, and not only just asking for permission, but got their driver's license numbers and just like stuff for us to follow up on. So I remember my first 34 referrals at once. Yeah,
I was going to say, because I asked that because I so specifically remember the first time an agent gave me a referral, and it was the coolest feeling in the world. They're both still my client, but it was like I just felt this like responsibility to take really good care of her, because I was like, oh my gosh, and it was on the first call. So he was signing up with me for the first time, and he had an aspirant, and he's like, I want you to call her. I called her, and she didn't even know what we were doing. And she was like, sure, Carl referred you, no problem, let's go. And it was like, oh my gosh. But I feel like remembering that feeling of, wow, I have to make sure I really kick ass for her and kick ass for him, because if he's got this girl, I'm sure a lot of other people are going to listen to what he says in the same way that she just came on board without much information, right? And I think another thing about referrals and having your business model that way is you take such good care of those people, because it's like, it's the personal connection. It's I've been given this responsibility to take care of your friend with her marketing, so I'm going to make sure I do everything I can for it.
I love that you brought that up, because that's something we talk about a lot, where it's one thing to get the referral. It's another thing to hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of our pitch, if you will, to our key relationships is when you send someone to me, my number one mission is to be so freaking awesome that the next call they make is back to Martina saying, oh my God, thank you for sending me to him. Like, he was awesome. And so you have to make a huge deal about it, right? To that person, over the top with gratitude, which you should be anyway. But then you have to make sure that you're hitting out of the park.
Yep.
And really the referral, people lose sight of this. The referral, if someone referred to you, it's not because they're trying to help you, right? And I know that sounds cold and sometimes their egos don't want to hear that. And same here with me too, right? They're not trying to help you. They're trying to help the person that they're referring. That's their friend. That's their family member. And so their ultimate goal is, I want my mom to have a great experience with insurance. So I'm sending her to my friend Martina, who does insurance, because I know, she's going to take great care of my mom. But my concern is for mom. And so we think that it's all about us. But it's not, right? And so then when you get that referral, now you've got to go over the top to make it so that wow experience for mom, so that this person's like, ooh, I made the right decision sending it to Martina. And then you continue to get all those referrals going forward.
Exactly. Because the referrals are such a domino effect. If you do your thing and you take care of people, they will never stop. But I've seen other people that I worked with get a lot of referrals and you stop taking care of them, and the dominoes are going to go back the other way, and you're going to lose them all just as quick as you got them all. And that's a lot of responsibility, and you're not going to have that with an internet lead customer.
No doubt. And if you allow me, I want to circle back around, and I want to take your previous question and go backwards with it. So you as a marketing person will appreciate this. I don't remember my first referral, but I remember the first person that we wrote that was a stranger.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because, when you start new market, it's a lot of calling in favors, friends, families, referrals. Like even this buddy who brought me 34, it's like I knew him. Right. It's an awesome story. But the real powerful moment was when
stranger.
Karen Joyce, I'll never forget, Karen Joyce walked into the agency and we're like, oh, who referred you? And she's like, no, I see you guys everywhere. And so from a marketing mix standpoint.
Oh, I love that.
And this is something that I don't want people to lose sight of. Referrals is a slice of the pie, right? I'm not saying that referrals are end all be all, right? And so because we had a solid marketing mix, which all of you should have, Karen was someone who said, I see you here, I see you there, I see you everywhere with the marketing stuff. And so that was actually more impactful.
That's so cool.
When that first random person walked in, I'm like, maybe we can do this because I don't have 10,000 friends. Right.
Exactly. You need it. I'm so glad you brought up the marketing mix, obviously, because I think something that I love about this book, we have we usually take on chunks of intern classes at a time. So July 1st, we have a certain amount of new agents starting. And I think that, some agents come into it with the mindset of, oh, if I do the right digital marketing, I'll be off the ground running. And it's that's not the case. It's a piece of the mix. So I want to make sure that every one of my new agents, please get this book, because you need to establish these processes to build the whole pie. Yeah. And to make sure you're not relying on your .com leads, you're not relying on your internet leads, you're not relying on your billboard traffic, whatever it is. And this is where you're getting the best customer.
Yeah, I compare it to building a house, right? So the referrals, the relationships, that's your foundation. Without a strong foundation, the house won't stand, right? But no one wants to live in just a foundation. Right. You still need to build the house, right? So it's a piece of the puzzle. I consider it just the base, the foundation, and then all the other stuff that you help with goes on top of it.
Yeah, I love that. Any last words you want to leave us with? This has been so great.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad we made it happen. And, really the whole premise is how do you turn relationships into revenue? Do it in a contrarian approach in this digitally dominated space that we live in, and it's not going away. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And as AI takes over, I'm okay with that too. But I'm telling you right now, the human has not changed, right? We've evolved, but we have not changed. And we see it and you have a lot of young employees and you're working with interns, which is awesome. This younger generation, especially, more than money and prestige and the name on the title on their business card, they want to be seen. They want to be heard. Yeah. They want meaningful experiences. They want to know that their work matters, that they matter. And so where people are going to win in the future, and I'm not saying don't do the digital stuff, you have to, but the digital stuff is becoming quickly white noise, right? Because there's so much of it out there. When I show up in a traditional way, an old school way, like in your mailbox with a handwritten card, that stands out. When I show up with a thoughtful gift, not something promoting my business, but I find out, oh, Martina loves wine, and I, take your initials and have them etched in wine glasses, really nice wine glasses, and gift those to you, right? Nothing about me, but every time you look at that wine glass or use it, you're going to think of me,
100%.
And so how do we get contrarian with our approach and get back to just basic human relationships and do so with consistency so that we stand out. And, you're a marketing person, so you obviously know Seth Godin, but it's the purple cow, right? How, in a field of black and white and brown cows, how do we become purple? And I really think we have to get back to old school grassroots, basic relationship principles.
Yeah. And to your point on COVID and how things have changed afterwards, anybody that is old enough to have been doing business 5 years ago before COVID has really noticed the shift in it's less personal. You talk to less people on the phone. Everything's automated website. And I don't think that's what people want anymore. I think that we went up really high with everything's automated and digital and all that. And now I think we just want to talk to a person and we want to shake a hand and see a smile. And I think it's something that really everybody should get back to, because that's what is the purple cow now. That's what's going to make you stand out.
Amen.
So this is awesome. August 13th, you guys can all order this book. You cannot have this one. I cannot even have this one.
That's the only one in existence
only copy.
Right now.
How else can people get a hold of you? Insurance agency optimization, State Farm, all of it.
So everything is on my main site, which is scottgrates.com. So SCOTTGRATES.com. And then for the book pre-orders, because pre-orders are very important, you can go to referralsdonerightbook.com. And then they'll ship the week of August 13th.
Awesome. I'm so excited to get mine. Thank you so much for coming in. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. See you next time.